And you're on.
Ready, okay. So if we can start by you saying your name and the titles of both of your books.
Hey, Jen, thank you for inviting me. So again, my name is David O'Brien. I'm the author of The Navigator's Handbook, 101 Leadership Lessons for Work and Life. And then my second book is The Navigator's Compass, 101 Steps Toward Leadership Excellence.
Love it. Can you share a little bit about what your books are about?
Sure. Well, you might have just realized, I'm sure anybody listening to this would realize that there's a common theme in the titles, The Navigator's Handbook, The Navigator's Compass. And all of my work over the last 30 years has been studying what separates great leaders from all the rest. And one of the many things I've learned about that is that they operate from a clear understanding of not just what their values are, but also how they live their values. And it's my experience over the years of studying leadership that those values, I think this is true for anyone, regardless of where they are in life or what they do, their values reside in their moral compass. That's where our values reside. And so what I've come to realize is great leaders have that capacity to use that as a guidepost. And I call it navigating because they're using their moral compass, their true north, if you will, to guide them. So the first book explores that in the context of work and life leadership. And the second, The Navigator's Compass, takes it a little bit further to apply it at different levels of the organization.
That's going to be beautiful for whatever you want to do with that.
Thank you.
That is good. Okay, that's succinct and beautiful. Can you share a little bit about your purpose?
My purpose is to develop more leaders. I've been on a mission for the last 20 years anyway to create more leaders. And when I first started out, I'll be celebrating the 20th anniversary of launching my business, Worktrace Solutions, this coming April. And for probably the first year, I had this vision that I was going to create 1 million leaders. That was my mission. And over the years, I've been doing that. I've been working toward that, but I've kind of dialed that back a little bit and have thought that, well, is it 1 million or 100,000? Listen, at the end of the day, if I can develop one more leader in my work, that's a gift, right? And so I've kind of dialed back that number because that's not as important as what the purpose is. And the purpose is to create more leaders, to develop more leaders. And I do that in my work through coaching, through training, through speaking, and that's what gets me out of bed every morning.
I love that. It's beautiful. When you go back in time to your former self that didn't have your books published, what was the kind of fire that was lit that made you think, I have to write this book or these books?
Feedback from clients. You know, I had been doing a lot of development of training material in the last 20 years, actually a little bit longer, of developing training content. And so writing a lot. I've always enjoyed writing. I've found a lot of success in that and passion in that. And it began by having clients tell me that, gee, this should be turned into a book or a manual. This is really good material. And I never thought of it that way. Who am I to write a book? You know, I'm just doing my job. I'm just trying to help my clients. And then, as life happens, people intersect with your life and they have a message and a lesson that you're supposed to learn. And when you're open to learning, you accept the lesson and learn something. And other times that's not, it takes repeated times. But at any rate, I had that experience where several people that came into my life at the right time, I suspect, said that I had a story that had to be told. So then that gave me that was the impetus for saying, well, maybe I should write a book. But then where would I begin?
That was going to be my next question. So where did you start when you knew that you had to do this, but then where did you start?
Well, I started to think about what would I write, what would be the message? And the way my brain works is I think about what do I want for an outcome, and then I go backwards, right? And so I thought, well, okay, if the goal would be to create more leaders, if the goal would be to help people who read the book discover that leadership is a choice, and it has far less to do with whether you have a title or whether you even work for that matter. It's really about a choice that we make. And that was really a driving force and message for me, and still is to this day, with more clarity than ever before as I continue to do this work. And that was really the driving force behind it. And then I started to sketch things out, and then got overwhelmed. And then life happened and work happened, and that first book was a 4-year journey. Because you go through the whole cycle of self-doubt, right? You go through a whole cycle of not knowing what's the next, and does this make any sense? And then maybe you have some apprehension of, well, do I want to share this? Is this really any good, right? Everybody goes through that, right? And that's part of the journey. And so those were some of the things that happened early on that finally got me to the point of saying, well, okay, maybe there's something in here.
I love this. There's so many questions I want to ask. Trying to stay focused, though. Our situation was different. So you had come to me and you already had your books published, but you had something happen that caused you to have to find an alternative solution. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. It was another good example of there is, in fact, a silver lining in difficult situations if, in fact, you open yourself up to that, right? And that difficult situation was the original publisher went bankrupt. And I will remember with great clarity thinking, oh my goodness, what do I do now? I had no idea. And then I thought, well, I have some pretty good supply of books on hand. That'll be enough. Maybe I'll just go to a printer. I have a buddy who has he's a printing business. I'll just go to him and he'll run off new copies for me, and that'll be the end of it. And then I began to realize there was so much more that had to go into it. And then through a good friend, a mutual friend, Kathy McAfee, as you may recall, in this process, in a lot of situations like this, you reach out to friends for guidance, right? There's a lot of wisdom out there, and one of the things that I say to leaders is you don't have to figure it all out yourself, right? You've got smart people you work with, you have friends, colleagues, etc. Well, anyway, I can still remember that with tremendous clarity that Kathy reached out to me and said, I found your publisher. And I trust her a lot, and she knows me real well. So when she said you were my publisher and I reached out to you, I think honestly, maybe it was about 10 minutes into our conversation that I thought, Kathy's right. So that began our journey together. And through that, I began to realize how much I needed guidance like yours, how much I needed your expertise. And that made all the difference.
I love it. It was magic. It truly felt like
we just clicked, It was
beautiful when that happens.
Yeah. It was such a relief for me, because you helped me to understand how important it was.
Just pause right here.
And is.
I'll just pause it just because the audio in the upstairs is just picking up really
Okay.
heavily. Just give me 1 second.
You'd think if this is a green room, it'd be soundproof.
Yeah. It's really extremely loud, so didn't need to interrupt you.
No. We want to get it right.
Yeah.
So whenever
Okay.
you're ready.
Yep.
So I remember as we began our work together, I realized just how much I needed your guidance, your expertise, and oh, what a relief it was to know that I was in such capable hands with your expertise, your guidance, your support, your responsiveness. It was indeed a joyful experience, and I will be forever thankful to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not often people refer to the publishing process as a joyful experience.
Well, you're true. I would agree. But when you click, you and I operate from a very similar foundation of service, responsiveness, accountability, and that's what made part of it that's what made a lot of it so successful, I think, because you honor your commitments, I honor my commitments. That's what we do, and we get it done, and that's what we did. We got it done. I was thinking this morning, in fact, the day we had the first copy ready, and we met somewhere over in Windsor, and you showed me the proof, and I remember thinking, oh yes. One of the great joys for an author, and I'm sure anybody watching this knows this, and anybody that's ever written a book or published in any level knows the joy that it feels when you hold it for the first time. I won't quite say it's like holding a baby for the first time, because that's really the ultimate experience, I think, and I've been blessed with that. But holding the first copy of your first book and then second book is pretty close behind.
I have said this publicly more than once. The day I am not super engaged and super excited and cannot wait to physically hold that proof copy, then I need to be doing something different. But to this day, I got proof copies in the mail yesterday, and I'm shrieking with joy because it's that moment where all of this hard work is finalized.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
Such a milestone, right? Yeah, I don't think you'd ever get tired of it.
No. Oh my God, I love it. It's like the best part. Actually, I was talking to one of our newest authors this morning, and she was like, it was 7 o'clock her time, and just like glowing because she got her proof copy in the mail yesterday. Like, yes, that's what this is about.
A good experience.
Yes. So to kind of tie everything together, if someone's watching our conversation and they know they have a book in them, but they just don't either know where to start or what to do or any of those things, do you have any actionable guidance that you could say, just try this, or any tips that you used along the way when you were working on yours?
Sure, thank you for asking. To begin with, the thing that keeps resonating in my mind is self-doubt is normal. It's okay, but it doesn't have to become the reality, right? And so knowing that that's part of the equation, but forging on, I was fortunate to have I was blessed really to have a circle of friends that were my champions, that in those moments where I had that self-doubt, they said, no, you have a story to tell, you have to do it. That's important. And I came to accept that as part of the journey, that self-doubt, and forging ahead, but also becoming disciplined in my writing. That was a very important strategy early on, that I would have a strategy whereby I would write on Mondays. That was my writing day. And I would, before I crashed out on Sunday night, I would read what I had written before, and to try to get my head into it. And I would focus on that, and I would fall asleep thinking about where the journey continued the next day. And most days that really helped. That really gave me a lot of clarity when I woke up. And some days I would just, the whole day would go by and I'd be in that zone. And other days I would spend an hour and a half on it, and I was still on sentence 1 or paragraph 1. And I got to the point where I began to realize that that was not a good writing day. So I didn't waste my day, because prior to that experience and that guidance from someone, I realized that it could be 2 o'clock and I'm still on paragraph 1, and 4 o'clock and I'm still on paragraph 1. Or I could think about my neighbor's swimming pool and think that that would be a much better place to be, and that I wouldn't get any work done or writing done. And that's another one. But I think also at an equal important level, it's about realizing you don't have to do it alone. To have someone like you to guide me, to coach me, to support me, to encourage me, that's such a help. It's such a big part of it. It's a real partnership. And I think that would be very important, because there's a lot of people who think they can do it themselves. I learned so much through the process. Even though I had had a publisher before, our work together really opened my eyes to so many different things. A real lot, that I will be forever indebted to you for. So thank you so much for that.
That's so awesome. So any final parting words?
Never stop believing. If you think the book's inside you, it's inside you. Never stop believing. And don't put self-imposed limits on it, like I have to have it done in this week or next year. Just keep finding your story, believe in the story, and don't give up.
Yes.
Awesome.
Those are like beautiful sound bites.
Yeah.
Yes.
All good.
It's very inspirational, right? Like we want people to be like inspired to.
I'm inspired to write a book.
Yeah,
Go for it,
Get
yeah.
up in the bandwagon.
Yeah, get on the band. I know a fantastic publisher.
Oh, wow.
Who is calling me now?
Surprised. So a lot of executives are writing books.